Hey y'all, it's Moonlight Cowboy. Today we're going to do something I didn't think possible, and not because I didn't think I could do it, but because I had lost the footage for it, most of it, and that is build into the rocks at the new waterfall spot. You could use this at the other waterfall spot too, but this is probably the more complex of the waterfall spots as it does have the overhang, which is absolutely gorgeous. So kind of to pull the curtain back for how I do these videos, typically when I'm doing the build, I save all of the key building parts, and then I edit them and then turn it into a tutorial because it wouldn't make sense for me to do the build and then to change it and redo it, right? Like, it wouldn't make any sense to do that. So I save the recordings. This is the spot. Previously, I just showed you where it's located. So if you don't know, that's where it is. So again, I do want to throw out there that I did lose a lot of footage. So I put in some supplemental footage in the meantime for this too, to kind of show you some areas that I may have missed out on. Also, I have a tutorial that's similar to this called how to place walls and rocks, or how to integrate walls and rocks, whatever it's called. This is basically part 2 of that because it follows the same wavelength. And at first I wasn't even going to do this tutorial because I kind of already had one, but I realized in that video that I didn't have any information on how to put walls through rocks going up rather than going out. In that video, they just kind of go out into the cliffs, but then I put a roof on top. Because of the way that this is structured, I'm going to show you how to do it this way. So, all of that said, all the disclaimers out of the way, what I'm doing here is I'm raising the foundation. Now, for those of you who don't know, you can double tap, for PlayStation, it's double tap X, and then on that second double tap, you can hold X and then use your triggers to move the foundation straight up or straight down. Now, the first way I'm going to show you is if you wanted to do it going just across without the fanciness that I used. And as you see here, I raised the foundations in a way that would get the walls to poke through the cliff. For me, getting the walls to get integrated in the cliff is more important than getting them sealed onto the foundation, because on the foundation I can work with that. It's these cliffs or rocks or whatever pre-existing structure there is, that's the challenge, right? So if you don't know, you can use the Blue Ridge Outpost set, that angled wall there, the one that you see on the top left hand side right there with the little hole. You can use that to integrate that into rocks because you can change that particular wall into a half wall. Now, I do use other slant walls to sometimes get fit in and then change that slant wall to that wall, and you'll see that here in a little bit because some of the walls, believe it or not, are slightly thinner or thicker than others. You will see, I'm a big fan of the red casino wall for this purpose, and there's a couple others too that I like to use. But as you see, I'm basically doing these walls at custom heights to meet the cliff to where I can poke that slant wall going into that cliff and then turn it into said half wall. And that way I get that flush seal that I'm sure everybody's like, oh wow, that looks really good, right? So now, as you see, I'm just custom raising, lowering that kind of, I'm going to call it my key foundation over there. And I'm not so worried about whether or not I keep that there per se, where as a keystone for the heights on the other walls. And that's because I can always just snap a foundation to those walls that are already in place if I need to. But as you see here, oh, we went the wrong way with that wall. Come on, baby. There we go. As you see, all those walls, or at least 3 out of 4 of them, are at varying heights. And again, this is so I can get this cliff, or get this wall to go into the cliff. Now I've got to go a little lower here. Notice I'm even trying to use the red casino quarter wall, or whatever it's called. And I'll go through other walls too, because sometimes you'll get lucky with one. One that I've also had a lot of luck with is the Fort Fortress wall. That one seems to go in pretty well too. So if you don't have the red casino wall, don't fret. I don't even know if you can get it anymore, but it is a really good set for just that purpose specifically. So I'm going to lower this foundation just a touch, and that should be enough to get where I need to go there. But we're going to see. It does take a lot of adjusting, and it does take a lot of patience to do what I did here. Like, I'm sure you could just slap slap a build in here and not have it integrated with the walls or the pre-existing rocks, and probably be fine too. But this is, again, you wouldn't be watching this, right? If you cared more about just slapping a structure here and not getting the walls to integrate into it. But yeah, as you see here, I was able to just take that slant wall. I get a lot of, by the way, I get a lot of comments saying, "Oh, the slant wall trick doesn't work with the Blue Ridge set," and that's because you have to move it like going the other direction. So like shift it from like right to left, and then you should eventually see the full wall or the half walls. But yeah, so this isn't the design that I end up going with. I'm showing you the initial, like how to get the walls in part, and then I'm going to show you like the more complex part of this. This is for those who might want to just go with like a straight wall over here. You know, I don't know why you would. When I was playing with this, I realized pretty quickly that I wanted to do where it kind of followed that like the upper line or the upper like outcropping of rocks, so to speak. But yeah, so I've got like multiple wall heights so that way I can get that in, and I use the foundation to get those wall heights where I want it to be. If I could have free placed walls there, but that would have been a real chore. Also want to point out that I'm doing, like, the footage that I saved was for the exterior walls, but by all means these same tricks work for like the interior walls too. You just have to finesse it. But again, didn't save the footage for those. This was enough footage to make almost a 30-minute tutorial, so once I realized that, I wasn't sweating it too hard. So, and now going forward, I started over, because I realized at this point when I was doing this build that I really wanted to follow the contour of that outcropping. So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of just turning that foundation a little bit, and I want to get it to the right height as well. Because once I get it to the right height and turned, I can follow that cliff line really well. And then I can create something a little bit more magical than just a straight line, right? Straight lines can be good, but they can also be boring. And as I see here, looks like don't let the overhang part of the slant walls like scare you. Sometimes you can still get in even if it looks like that part's poking out, but we will redo that part because I don't like that wall coming out. So I'm just going to bring it over a little bit. I want a little bit of overhang. I don't want it to be like perfectly flush with it, because then that kind of takes away from it, in my opinion. And then here we go. So now I think we're going to be in a spot here where I'll be able to just put in this angled wall. And notice it was still poking out a little bit, but once I turned it into a half wall, it wasn't poking out anymore. So we should be good to go there. Now the nice thing about this portion of the outcropping, it's pretty much a straight line. So I don't have to do a ton of wall adjustments like I do on the other side, because the other side, it starts going down a little bit at an angle right there. If you saw where the rocks kind of go and change direction a little bit. Or yeah. So that said, here we are. We're on to the next one. In a second here, I'm going to go ahead and remove those walls, because now I know that I can get them in there, but I do want to move them over a touch, and the reason for that is I want to be able to make sure that I can get them to fit into the cliff on the other side. But I know I have the right height now, so I'm not super worried about that. I can always move that foundation back and forth a touch if I need to. And as you can see here, I'm putting the foundations on the backside too, so that way I can flip-flop the wall in whatever direction I want it to go. But yeah, I can get my walls back in no problem. Now it's just about spacing with meeting the cliff on that side. So what I'm going to have to do is move this foundation over here and make sure that I spaced it just right. It looks like I did a pretty good job here. But again, I'm going to go to my walls. Now look, I can't get that Fort Fortress wall to be in over there. So I'm going to go ahead and just move it over anyway as a precaution. Just a little bit. And obviously you're not going to follow it to the T. It would be impossible to follow like what I'm doing to the pixel. So this is more just so you can see like what the troubleshoot is on this. And now hopefully we can get a wall there. Let's see if I can get my wall in here. Oh, see, that time I was able to get the Fort Fortress door wall in, the arch wall or slant wall or whatever. I always screw that up, by the way. So if you're like, Moon, I don't follow your videos because you can't get the wall names right, good on you, because I failed you. Now, we're able to get all these walls in, so at least the first two, and I'm just going to check to make sure I can get the next ones in. The reason why this trick works, by the way, is because the pointy parts of these walls don't have the same collision as any other type of wall. So you're able to kind of poke in the burr, right? And now I know I can get those walls in, so now it's just a matter of putting these into place because we've already tested it, and I know that this part of the cliff is all pretty much the same level. I'll show you later too how to sub out these walls if for some reason you want to use a half wall instead of the full walls, because there are some spots where I do that. But for now, I just want to get my walls in place and make sure that everything's where it needs to be. And yeah, so that full side is done. I hate to say it, but that ended up being the easy side to this. That and this part right here. This was the easy part. The other side is a little bit more hell on wheels, but you've already kind of seen what that looks like, right? We're going to have to go down in the level of our walls, and we're going to kind of have to cascade them a little bit in order for them to follow the line of the cliff. Otherwise, you won't get them to do what you want them to do. Now, I'm getting my last one here in. We'll see if this goes in. And it does. We're lucky here. And this is the last easy one that I've got. After this, we're going to start playing with our foundation again. And this part is going to be quite tricky to do. And this is probably the part that took me the most patience. I'm not going to follow the normal rigid line of the walls. It's not going to be perfect 90-degree angles. First, though, I want to remove the foundations. In order to do that, I have to either make sure they're doorways, or in the case of half walls, I need to make sure that they're destroyed so I can remove those foundations. Because now we're going to be playing with the angle of this. Again, this took a lot of time and patience, so if you don't get it on like the 6th time, don't be mad at yourself. I think this took me, I cut out probably 15 plus minutes of footage of me trying to get this other wall in over here through just moving it around. The key is you just want to make sure that once you get it into position, you want it to actually sit where it meets that corner perfectly without showing like the sides, like the little like flat end of the wall, not the main flat end, obviously. And yeah, once you get this part done, and then you get the different levels of the wall, that's really the meat and potatoes of what we're doing here. We're really close now. Actually, did I get it? Is this the time that I got it? Again, I edited out a lot of footage here. The other thing I'm looking at too, so I did get the wall flush. The other thing too to be careful of is there is this like divot in the cliff. So if I had left it right there, you would have seen the wall through like that crack between the two different ledges. So now I really gotta rethink my life on this. And I'm going to have to redo that part, even though I had it flush. And let's see if this is the time. All right. There we go. So it took me a lot of tries to get this to where that wall was going the right angle to where it was offset from the other walls. flush and it met it correctly, but then also where that divot in the cliff right there, you can see in kind of the top right corner of where that wall is, you can see where that's at. But of course, we run into this problem. None of the walls want to go into position here. So that's okay. Once you're here, it's not a problem. All you need to do then is just do that lowering trick that I told you. Again, with the PlayStation, it's just double tap X. It's probably a scroll mouse wheel thing on a PC. You know, PC users are blessed in that regard that they can do stuff like that. We could probably hook up a keyboard to this, but I guess once you get used to the system, either way, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I lowered it a little bit, and let's see if that works. There we go. Into the cliff it goes. So I know that that one's going to be solid. Now, sometimes you're going to have trouble getting your foundations in place, as you saw right there, like it turned red. And I'm doing my favorite game, which is look for the camp module. I don't know about you guys. Every once in a blue moon, I will lose my camp module. And then it's like, where'd it go? Where'd it go? And I've spent too much time looking for that stupid camp module sometimes. Now, I already know that that ain't going to work. That is not going to fit there, so I'm going to have to lower it a little bit here. Boo. Yes. All right. So now that we know that that's not going to work, and I'm trying every wall too, because I want it to be as flush as possible, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of walk of shame my way back and lower this foundation a little bit. And that's the game we play. As long as you're using the method to not manually, but to automatically move that foundation up or down using the double tap X trick, then you don't have to worry about your your walls shifting too much. And if you notice here, even now, it still wasn't enough. So I'm going to have to do it one more time to get it into position. I'm trying not to go under the water. This water, it's not bad water, but it's tricky water. Like directly under the surface, you can't grab anything, but if you go a little deeper in the surface, you can. But then I really don't want to mess up the positioning I have with this wall. Otherwise, I'm going to have to start over with that part. This part should work, though. I think I'm definitely low enough to get, yep, and it was able to snap in. All right, cool. So we got that wall in. You already know the whole method on how to do that part with changing the angle of the wall. Now we're running into another interesting issue here, which you're going to see. So, like, obviously I need to get my angled wall into place so I can, so that way I can get it into the cliff. But that cliff juts in a little bit. So it's going to make it really hard to get this into position. But like, yeah, this part is definitely the hardest part. And you know, at first I was like, man, I really don't think I need to do a tutorial here. But then after I did this, I realized, yeah, I probably do. But look, so even with that slant wall going in, I still like that wall is still like not like intersecting with the cliff enough. Now, I know I can get that height in correctly, but the problem is it's not meeting that cliff very flush. So what I'm going to have to do for this last one is I'm going to have to manually move that foundation over. And the reason I mean, I don't technically have to. I could have used a wall and used some catwalks here, but the catwalks won't connect to the foundation because that's too close to the water. So, and the other piece too is I don't believe that this would have been like a full quarter length catwalk to make that journey into that wall and still be able to connect to everything that I needed to. So this time I just had to be a little bit careful. And then I went ahead and manually moved that foundation over. I followed the line of the other foundation to make sure it was going in correctly. And now, this time, it is pretty flush. Oh, we were still off a little bit. So, looking at this in hindsight, what I could have done is I could have probably done that quarter length catwalk that I was just talking about. And the way I would have done it, because it wouldn't have snapped into the water, is I would have put a full wall up, and then I would have used like 5 small catwalks or 1 large catwalk and 1 small. Placed another doorway wall, and then I would have probably put I would have removed the foundation, removed everything but that last quarter wall or doorway, and then I probably would have then been able to snap a foundation to that, and that would have gotten me my quarter length. But that's long, complicated, and this is the way that I ended up doing it, and this is the way that I would figure most people will. So just be really careful, because if you screw this part up, then what will happen is there will be a line on the other side of the wall or on both sides of the wall, which is actually what happened to this build. It was kind of a happy accident, because it forced me to do something a little different with these walls, as you saw from the video, the showcase video. I have like these metal plates that go up that one side, and I think it actually looks better. But it's also used to cover up that like little happy accident that I had. But yeah, so I was able to get my walls here. Now there's a problem, right? It's pretty obvious. The walls have a gap right there. It is pretty obvious that there is a gap. So this is one of those points where I didn't save that footage. So I'm going to show you how to fill that gap off to the side, because I'm not good at my job. So what we're doing here is we are turning all of these into the corroded concrete set. You can also do this, for those that don't have the set, you can also do something like this with the abandoned mindset walls, as long as they're like the walls that have that diagonal slant in them. But these are actually even more friendly. That's why I love using these. If you don't have these and you're like looking to build like an elite builder, or get to that level, get these walls. They're one of the best wall sets for building, for the sake of being able to destroy them. Now in the initial tutorial, I was using the flamethrower still, and before you guys comment, yes, I know about the new trick, obviously, because I used the bow. When I started that part of the build, I didn't have that perk card, and I had to go and get perk points. So I had to level up to get that card. Anyways, so as you see here, once I destroyed the walls, I can move these foundations anywhere. I can use catwalks to kind of offset the foundations a little bit if I want. And I can do it as, to my heart's content. And then I can then slap whatever kind of walls I want there. They're very friendly. Again, that's why we love these corroded sets as builders. And I have wall tutorials too. If you're looking for like more wall tips and tricks, I have one that's like 25 wall tips and tricks that is actually, I think, pretty good, especially for those of you who don't know them all. Or if you know several and you don't know what you don't know, it would be healthy to check it out anyway, because you never know when these tricks are going to come in handy. And look, now I have these walls, and they're actually like 1.5 wall wide, more or less, or 2.5 walls wide. So following that same wavelength here, now we have these walls, right, that we knew were going to be hovering over. So that same methodology works from top to bottom as well. So not just to merge them side to side, I'm going to destroy those walls, and then I'm going to be able to put in walls underneath of them. Now, look, I can't get this other angled wall in the way I want it to go, but I am able to do it with another type of wall. And this time it's not the Fort Fortress wall. It's not letting me. It's not letting me go in to where the wallpaper side is facing in. So what I did was I did have these casino quarter walls, and that's the thinnest one that I know of, and that worked. And then I just turned that into the Blue Ridge set, and then I'm able to turn that into half walls. But otherwise I could just snap these into place, and it's easy. I used those walls, by the way, to end up, I created like kind of like a border around the bottom of my camp all the way around on the outside, and I thought that looked really good. So I ended up going in that route. And that's what I would recommend for anybody looking to do something like this. Try and find ways to make your build not look like one entire flat wall. Find ways to make it look like, there's some like definition, some texture to it, something that makes it pop. But yeah, as you can see, I've got all my walls in place, but now I'm having second thoughts, right? Now remember earlier in the video, I talked about how I would want to possibly put in half walls in some places instead of the full walls. Now we're going to kind of play with that idea. So what I want to do is I want to remove this wall. And to do that, I'm going to have to destroy that wall and this wall. Basically, I'm trying to unhook them. They are hooked together, and unless I snap a foundation to them normally, they wouldn't unsnap. But I was able to delete that wall, no problem. And then I can add whatever wall I want there. I could also do half walls, which I think I'm going to do here in a minute. So the way I would put a half wall in, depending on what I was trying to do, make sure, by the way, those doorway jams can possibly get in your way, is I would just catwalk off of that top wall, or I could catwalk off the bottom of this doorway here. Either way works. And then I would just use walls and get the walls in it. So if it was the top wall, I would have catwalked in, put a wall in, and then catwalked off of that wall to bring it back to where I wanted it to be. Yeah, so it could be a half wall or a full wall there, dealer's choice. Now we're going to do something else. I want to get in a doorway here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, in fact, do the half wall on this side, as you will see in a second. And the reason being is I want, like, if I were to put a doorway in at that level, it's not going to look very good, and I won't be able to walk through it because it's only going to be about a quarter way off of the foundation, so you're not going to have enough gap to walk through by any means. So notice I reversed the wall and I walked it back up. Like so. And then I destroyed it. And now I can just snap a doorway there. Now, this is important. Before you remove that foundation, make sure you snap a door to it. Because if you don't, you will not be able to later unless you snap a foundation to that particular wall. But there I was able to get that wall in. And then I can start getting creative with the wall styles. You know, that looked pretty good. I didn't end up going in that route. But in a nutshell, that is how I got my walls into place here. I know that it was a little less than most of my other tutorials. I'm sorry that I didn't save all of the footage. I was helping other people. And then I failed to go back and remember to save the recordings. If you found this helpful, if you find my tutorials in general helpful, like, subscribe, let your friends know. I have a ton of building tricks, and I love helping other people be able to create things like this or what they want to create. For those of you who enjoy my programming, subscribe. Thank you so much. Y'all have a blessed day and stay safe out there.